Forgiveness stands at the very heart of the good news, not as a distant hope, but as a completed reality that reshapes how we see God, ourselves, and others. At the center of Scripture is the declaration that God has decisively dealt with sin. This is not presented as an ongoing negotiation or a future possibility, but as something accomplished through Christ. The weight of guilt, the barrier between God and humanity, and the system that continually reminded people of their failures have all been brought to an end. What once stood as a dividing wall has been removed, not partially, but completely. When Jesus declared, "It is finished," he was not speaking in metaphor. He was announcing the fulfillment of everything the law and the prophets anticipated. The sacrificial system, with its repeated offerings, pointed forward to a single sufficient act that would take away sin once and for all. Forgiveness, therefore, is not something we strive to obtain. It is something that has been fully given. This changes the entire framework of how we approach God. No longer do we come as people hoping to be accepted. We come as those who have already been reconciled. The language of distance, of separation, condemnation, and pending judgment has been replaced with the language of nearness, peace, and union. God is not counting sins against humanity. The record that stood against us has been wiped clean. Historically, this shift marked the end of an old covenant world and the establishment of a new one. The judgments that were once anticipated came upon that generation, bringing the old order to its close. What remains is the enduring reality of a kingdom that cannot be shaken, a realm defined not by law, but by grace, not by repeated sacrifices, but by a finished work. But forgiveness is not merely a theological concept. It is a lived reality. If we truly believe that God has forgiven us completely, it reshapes how we treat others. We are no longer positioned as debt collectors, keeping records of wrongs, because we ourselves are no longer under a system that keeps records against us. To withhold forgiveness from others is to live as though we are still under the old order, where debts are tracked and repayment is demanded. But to forgive freely is to reflect the new reality we've been brought into. It is to live in alignment with what is already true. Forgiveness, then, is not a condition for receiving God's favor. It is the natural outflow of having already received it. We forgive because we have been forgiven, not partially, not conditionally, but completely. This also frees the conscience. Many live with an underlying sense of guilt, as though something still stands between them and God. But the message is clear. There is nothing left to be paid. There is no remaining debt. The work is to continue carrying guilt is to carry something that no longer exists in the eyes of God. Instead, we are invited to live with boldness and confidence, not in ourselves, but in what has been accomplished. This is a life marked by rest, not striving, by assurance, not uncertainty. And from that place of rest, forgiveness flows outward. Relationships are healed. Bitterness loses its grip. The need to be right, to win, or to hold on to past wounds begins to fade. When we understand that we stand forgiven without measure, it becomes possible to extend that same grace to others without hesitation. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the evidence of a transformed perspective. It is the fruit of seeing clearly what has already been done. So the call is simple. Live as those who are forgiven. Let go of guilt. Release others from their debts. Walk in the freedom that has already been secured. Because forgiveness is not something we are waiting on. It is the foundation we are already standing on.